The first thing to do that's important is to lay out the logo and find the center point in which this logo is going to be affixed in. A lot of measuring takes place at this particular time, and what these installers are doing is finding the center from left to right, and then as well to get the main frame from top to bottom in which this particular logo is going to sit in. You lay the logo down, find out where the point in which you're going to place this logo, and then mark it such as they're doing right now with a center mark. Both the bottom logo, if they're two separate pieces, and the top have a center mark on it. This is defined by a straight line, usually with a C in it, denoting a center line. Now we lay this logo down, stand back and look at it to be sure that it is in an area that you like. All this is vinyl lettering. It comes from a vinyl lettering shop, same shops that puts logos or names on the side of vehicles. This is a thin vinyl with an adhesive backing, and the logo that we're putting down is sandwiched between two pieces of paper. They're usually waxed paper or special paper that will not allow the adhesive to stick to it, so that you can peel it back off and stick it down to the already skimmed surface. Now the reason we're laying this logo out is to establish the colors, two different colors that we're going to put down. On the right side, we're going to have a teal green, and the letters will be black. Continual adjustment, looking at it, double checking it is very important. Be satisfied with the logo placement before you do anything else. The bottom line has been established, and now we're going to affix the perimeter. Once we have measured it out, laid the logo out, we have established the perimeter in which our logo is going to stay. The top tape is now placed. This defines the top portion or the top boundaries in which the logo is going to lay. We are defining the perimeters. Now we do the two sides. Remember, we're working off of center points, so all our measurements come off of that center point. By using a framing square, we square up the sides from the point that we have measured from the center to get our side points. This also is the next step to define or establish the perimeter in which this logo will lay. A lot of times, a lot of installers like to line the perimeters in brick or a different color to separate this. The reason for it is you will have to spray 100% or 80 to 100% coverage in the logo area, because you have to color up the different colors of the skim that we put down. The next step that we're about to do is we're going to mark the areas where the separate colors will lay. If you notice, they're putting a pencil mark down at the bottom. There's one at the top, right at the bottom of your screen. That's where the teal is going to be. Then we put down a tape and define that area. Remove these logos carefully. You don't want to crimp them up, crush them up, or wrinkle them. The tape that we're installing now defines the perimeter in which the teal is going to meet the black. And the small square is where the teal color, the skim color, will be applied. Using the masking machine, we mask off this perimeter so that we don't get that color on any portion of our logo area. Using the masking machine allows you to mask off these areas, not allowing skim to get into other areas very quickly. using the CTI 105 grout mixed with the 110 modifier. We're using a teal green color to skim in our first multicolored area. Notice how the masking tape is around the perimeter so that we do not get any skim on any area outside of the area in which we are skimming. These are skimmed down very tight and very smooth. Do not over trowel. We also use fans to blow air across the area, allowing it to pull moisture out of the mix so that it'll dry very quickly for us. Once the teal green has dried, or the other color has dried, pull your masking paper and tape, and now we're ready to put down the other color. In this case, black. It's recommended to do your logos first, cover them up, and then do your spray system around your logos. Now we're ready to mask off the entire area in which our black skim is going to be applied. Using masking machines allows one person to mask off these perimeters very easily. Now we're ready to skim on the second color. In a multicolor logo, the second color is applied the same as the first. If you notice, the trowel is getting right on the edge where the teal is. Now the teal is already dry and we're just skimming to it and right over it. We're allowing some fluctuation in that area to allow an overlap in skim. Again, this skim is very tight and very smooth. It's important to remember that once this vinyl lettering has been placed, we spray over it, it will be removed and you will reveal this skim coat. Whatever you do now will show later. Take your time, skim it very good, very tight, very smooth to allow a very good finished appearance once that logo has been removed. Trowel marks can be removed by using the rubbing brick. A light rubbing brick is essential if you cannot get these skims very smooth. .60 to 80 grit sandpaper can be used to sand these areas down to get a good smooth finish. Notice how the trowel person is skimming all the excess of material out onto the masking paper, not onto the floor that we need to spray on after this logo is completed. Take your time to trowel these skim down right. Pour out a little material at a time to not allow that material to dry prior to you skimming it. If you notice the small chatter marks left by the trowel in this skim, those are the marks that can be removed by using sandpaper or rubbing brick. These will show, so let's remove them. Take your time, trowel it right, get it smooth. Take your time to remove all the masking paper and tape, not allowing that material, the skim material, to be damaged. Speed the process up by using that fan again. Once the skim has dried, we're ready to place the logo in position prior to spraying. Take the time to adjust the logo out, and remember, we have the center marks on that logo, so let's remeasure and be sure that this logo is in the exact position prior to spraying. Adjust the logo, stand back, and look at it to be sure it's in the area that you choose. Before we pull any of the papers off, we mark with a pencil the outside edges of this logo to guide us into placing this once we have removed the backing. Once you remove that backing, you have exposed the adhesive properties on the back side of that vinyl, and that's what's going to stay down or stick down to your skim surface. These marks allow you to line it up and put it in exactly the same spot in which you lift it up from. Once the marks have been put down, then the backing is peeled off the logo or the vinyl stencil. Be very careful when you do this process so that none of the tapes stick to each other. It's essential to have 2 or even more people, maybe 3, pull this apart. Now you have exposed the adhesive side of this vinyl that is going to be stuck down to your skimmed area. Hold it away from you so that you don't crink or crumble or have any of the adhesives stick together. The person on the right will be holding the stencil up high. The person on the left will be sticking it down and lining it up with the previous pencil marks that we had placed on the floor. Now very carefully, we will rub this stencil down as it lays down on the floor. Be sure and do this one time. It is very hard to pull up and replace. Checking the pencil marks is very important to do as you go from one end to the other. Rub the stencil down to allow to get all the air bubbles out. Notice how the pencil marks line up that edge. Now we're ready to pull the top backing off. 2 to 3 people are required and needed to do this particular step. The reason for it is the acrylic cement that is used as a skim has a profile to it. The smoother you get that skim, the better it will stick. Take the time to peel this backing off little by little to be sure that the logo or the vinyl that has the adhesive to it is stuck in the proper position. It does take time and it is very tedious to do this process, but it is worthwhile to go through the motions to do it right. See how one applicator is pulling the backing, the other one is pressing it down. Little edges that are missed are come back and caught, stuck back down, and then rubbed down. The more hands you have in this process or in this step, the better you will be. It is very sticky and very aggravating at times. The skim must be 100% dry and dust free to accomplish this process. Notice how a third person is involved now to push down the top portion of the stencil. The larger the area, the more hands are needed. Notice how they pat it down and then rub it down. This allows you not to crink up the stencil or misalign it. Take your time, pull it gently. Notice how the alignment is for the logo on the teal separated from the black. You have plenty of room there to separate the two color combinations in this logo. Pieces from the backing on the stencil are used to rub this down in a broader area. This is a wax paper consistency, allowing it to slide very easily on the surface. It also gives you a broader area in which to squeeze out bubbles. The vinyl that we are placing, once it's removed, will show the skim colors that we had skimmed down previously. The black for the letters, the teal green for the logo itself. When you put down the second logo or the other half of the logo, be sure that the center mark is there. Notice the two center marks will align when that logo is placed. Marking the outside edges of this logo is very important to align it back up once we separate the two papers on the logo. Take the time to pull it or separate it properly, not allowing any of the letters to stick together. This particular logo was made by a vinyl lettering company in which we brought a business card to, told them the width or the left to right measurements in which we wanted it, and they decided on the width or the height. Many logos come in single or solid pieces, but depending on the size and the complexity of the logo, it may be separate parts. Again, rub this logo down with your hand with the backing of this logo or the wax paper portion to be sure that you have a good bond to the skim. Start out very carefully, pulling back the backing, having someone rub down the letters as you go. This will ensure that all the letters stay in alignment. Double check and triple check to be sure that this is where the logo will stay. If a letter pops up, just place it back down and begin again. Take the time to do it right. Notice how the two are working together, one pulling, one rubbing down. Once all the backing has been removed, it is required to rub down the logo letters to be sure that they are adhered properly to the skim. The backing can be used to accomplish this quite easily. What we always recommend doing is taking some pattern tape, applying it to the vinyl letters to mark these letters. The reason for this is it is very difficult to find these thin letters or this thin vinyl once we have sprayed the texture on. You can leave an edge up or crimp the tape and stick it down so that you have an edge sticking up showing us where these letters are. Once it's sprayed, it's very, very difficult to locate these vinyl letters. Take the time to mark them all out. When you spray over a multicolor logo, you have to spray more than 60% and just a little shy of 100%. The reason for this is you want to cover up the color transition between the two colors. In this case, between the teal green and the black. This is done not in one pass. It's usually recommended to make 2 or 3 consecutive passes, or to spray your first initial coat and highlight with that same color to give you color coverage. Remember, you want consistency. We are spraying at approximately 5 quarts of modifier per bag of grout. We're starting off with a white color. We always highlight everything we spray. Standing back, color covering is very important. The second highlight in this case is black. Be very careful with black because it is very dominant, and do not use too much of it. after we install the black highlight, we apply the teal green. It's very common to use the same colors that are used in the skim as highlights to cover the transition between the two colors in the skim. Once this process is dry, we use a utility knife to locate and find the vinyl stencil and remove it from the skim coat. Be careful in this process not to pick the skim. Try to find the tape that we put on top of the vinyl to tell us where that vinyl stencil is laid. In most cases, it's recommended to use 2 or more people to show you on the opposite side of which you are pulling the stencil where that stencil is laying. They are very hard to find or locate after we have sprayed 100%. You notice he just found a piece of tape that revealed where the location of that vinyl stencil is. Take the time to locate the stencils and pull them gently. This material must be 100% dry prior to pulling these vinyl stencils. Once this vinyl stencil is removed, your smooth skim coat is revealed, and this will stay as it is even through the finishing. See how the applicator picks at it with his utility knife to find the stencil? The smaller letters take more time to locate. They are very hard to see, and it is very important to label these with pattern tape. Stick that pattern tape up so that you can define it and see it after you spray. Take the time to pick it and to reveal these letters so that you know the locations. Once these logos are blown off and swept off, 2 to 3 coats of sealer are applied to give you a beautiful, long-lasting appearance.